quarterback fans, college football fans, welcome to another QB Spotlight podcast, interview, YouTube show, whatever you want to call it. We got App State quarterback Brady McBride. I'm Stephen Hamner. We have a super, I think, special guest that we have on today that we just did that is going to be a really, really inspirational story, right? We had two inspirational stories kind of back to back. Chris Reynolds from Charlotte and now CFL quarterback Dru Brown, who went the JUCO route, then played at Hawaii for 2 years and Oklahoma State for 2 years, and now entering his third year, I believe, in the CFL. And just some just raw, authentic stories from college till now and how he's grown and developed. So I think anyone, within the quarterback field, but anyone just in life in general can get a lot out of this. But before we dive into the interview, Brady, what was kind of just a few just big takeaways you had and just kind of talking to him, listening to him speak, excuse me.
Yeah, like you said, uncut, raw. I mean, he's faced a lot of adversity. He's had basically every situation you could have through the college, from high school to JUCO to college. And just like you said, just keep showing up. Like that's half the battle right there. So, I mean, I feel like people will be able to take a lot from this, and I know I have. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that was great. And you nailed it. Just keep showing up. So again, Dru Brown, quarterback in the CFL, Winnipeg. I believe the Blue Bombers don't get mad is that right? You know that for sure? Yeah. Don't get mad as Dru if we miss the name. But I think it's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and they won the Grey Cup. Just a really good team. They went to the Grey Cup at some point, but really good team in the CFL, and just a great story. And let's shut us up and let's get into this interview. Oh, before I dive out, like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. Get the count up. All right, guys, we'll see y'all, I guess, in a second. Let's dive into the interview. Dru Brown, what's up, man? Thanks so much for jumping on. And Dru, real quick, I think you are our first professional quarterback that we're having on the show, dude. So what a big honor, huh? I think we've only done like 6 or 7 of these, but you're jumping in early. You're in early on the investment. But not, in all seriousness, man, thanks for jumping on. I've been a fan for a little while. Ever since you were at Hawaii, your first year starting, whenever QB Spotlight, we would do a lot of, for anyone who doesn't know this, QB Spotlight got started doing a lot of film breakdowns for a group of 5 quarterbacks. We would find quarterbacks in the group of 5 that we thought were doing a really good job, and we just would try to spotlight them and get people known. So that's how we kind of came across. We responded to some on Twitter, man. But we're super happy to have you on, man. So thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. What a huge honor. All like 17 of our followers. It's a big deal. Maybe we'll get some more. Maybe we'll get some Canadian fans too. This might do a good job for us.
Definitely.
But for those that don't know, Dru Brown is a CFL quarterback entering year 3, right? With the CFL, entering year 3. Played at Hawaii for a few years before that at JUCO, and then played at Oklahoma State. I won't tell the story too much because he's got a great story, and I'm super excited to get into it. Right now, he's over in Cali and doing some off-season training. So, Dru, before we kind of jump into your story and everything, man, what's a typical day look like right now for you over in Cali? What's like an off-season day looking like for you?
Oh man, it's definitely different than college, where your day gets stretched out all day like Brady's. But yeah, it's typically just get up. Usually I'll hit the weight room and then I'll come back, eat, sometimes take a nap, and then give myself a few hours and I'll go run, depending on the day, and then throw. Yeah. I'm I throw pretty frequently. I give myself some time after the season, but for the most part, once I started up, I pretty much don't stop until the season's over. Kind of like one of those old school, like, hey, I'm just gonna continue to throw. I haven't really incorporated the pitch count yet. Maybe it's my age. Maybe I'll hit that when I get a little bit older. But yeah, dude. I mean, it's the best job in the world.
Yeah.
I talk to people all the time, and I got a lot of buddies that played in college or high school, and they get out of college and they're like, man, like, I don't know what to do. And I'm so grateful that I've never had to have that discussion with myself. It's like I knew what I wanted to do when I was 8 or 9, and I've never had that kind of like out of college crisis of like, what am I going to do now? So I'm super grateful for that. People talk about it being a rough profession, but it's like all I know. Yeah. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
CFL, NFL, XFL, USFL. It's like, dude, you're playing ball. You're getting paid well.
Right.
For 6-7 months of work, it doesn't get much better.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a good lifestyle too. We work with a lot of pro guys down here. It sounds very similar, where they wake up, work out, take a nap, and then kind of go from there. So having that nap is nice. I know Brady wishes he had a nap right now. Brady, you're right in the middle of things, huh?
Yeah, I'm just knee deep in it. Finishing up week 1 of spring ball, so trying to figure out my schedule a little better.
Yeah. No, I think you're doing good. Your hat's upside down, right? Like the letters are upside down. You know that, right? Okay.
It's a funny one. I have all my coaches and players telling me that. No one's from Texas. I think I'm the lone Texas guy on our team. They're like, it says salad, right? I'm like, yeah.
Oh man, well, now you make me feel old. Sheesh. Oh man. But real quick, Drew, I think I want to just kind of start off. If you just want to just kind of give your background, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, whatever it may be, from like your playing experience from high school. Kind of take us through what high school was like, then the JUCO and the college route, and then post college and where you are kind of right now. If you don't mind, just take like 3, 4, 5 minutes and kind of dive into your history and background.
Yeah. So in high school, I actually I got hurt my freshman year, and then I played JV, and then my junior year I only played in 2 games because the senior ahead of me had a full ride to San Diego State. So I actually didn't start my junior year. I only had like 2 games to take. And then my senior year I had a good year, but didn't have any, any offers. I didn't really, me being young and dumb, I didn't really entertain the FCS level. I didn't know how good of a level of football that was. I can specifically remember talking to Eastern Washington and my dad played at Washington State, so I was a big Washington State fan growing up, and they were recruiting me pretty heavily. And they're like, "Hey, we need 2 more games of film," and then after those 2 games, it was 2 more games of film. And so I was kind of ignorant and told pretty much anyone else, like, "Hey, like I'm going to get an offer to Washington State." So I ended up didn't have anything. Went to JUCO. They actually ran the triple option at the time. Which was I knew that, but I always kind of like prided myself on being able to read people well, and I knew that the staff was going to take care of me and do what they had to do. Obviously, in high school, I went to like the camp circuit, like college camps and stuff, and one of those camps I went to was at the University of Nevada, and that's actually where Nick Rolovich was the offensive coordinator, and he saw me throw in person. Fast forward, after my freshman year at JUCO, he comes and visits me at College of San Mateo, and he's like, "Hey, I've seen you throw. I've never forgot about it since. I'm the head man at Hawaii now. I'm going to go through spring ball, see what I got, and based on that, you'll have either you won't have an offer from us or you will." And about a week or 2 after spring ball was over for them, he called me, offered me. I tripped, committed within like 72 hours, whatever it was. And went out there, man, played for 2 years, was awesome. And then kind of just felt like I was ready for something bigger. Felt like maybe I'm going to say this and be rude, but I felt like my dedication to the game wasn't necessarily reciprocated by my teammates. So I was like, I'm going to take a shitload of credits and freaking graduate and then go transfer. And, there's kind of a common theme here with places that I went. It was usually the first school to offer. For me, like I've kind of been raised on loyalty, and that shows a lot of commitment to someone. So during the graduate transfer process, Oklahoma State was the first big Power 5 school to offer me. And so I tripped there, committed again within 48, 72 hours, whatever it was. Went there, redshirted my first year, and then pretty much played like the back half of my senior year. that was a interesting situation there. But yeah, I wouldn't change anything, man. Like, you can look back and be like, I remember my first year, I really struggled at Oklahoma State because I watched Gardner play at Wazoo, who offered me after I committed to Oklahoma State. I watched Burrow do really good things at LSU. I talked to them quite a bit throughout the process. I watched Baylor beat us the next year, and they were another team that offered me. So it was kind of a crazy ride emotions wise. But yeah, dude, when I was done at Oklahoma State, I kind of was like in contact with some of my previous coordinators, and they were kind of getting me set up for some quality control stuff. And then the assistant GM in Winnipeg was like, called me during, I was going to do pro day and stuff. So I was out in Atlanta with Quincy Avery, Jalen Hurts, and Ben DiNucci, and we were training together. And then Danny McManus, our assistant GM in Winnipeg, called me and he was like, "Hey man, we actually put you on our neg list as a sophomore." I had no idea. I thought I was going to go through the pro day, do it for fun, throw to the guys one last time, and then ended up doing really well. And I actually signed the papers 5 minutes after my pro day was done.
Wow.
Just because if I would have signed it before, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I've been in Winnipeg going on my third year now. And it's kind of rejuvenated my love for the game, so to speak. I think the game can it humbles you in a way.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about a lot of things, like whether you like it enough to continue pursuing it. It's got you down in the dumps, but it also has you, higher than life. And, being in Winnipeg has truly, I found my love again for it. And I think I credit that a lot to the staff and how they let the guys be us, authentic to who we are. I remember in college trying to be, hey, you need to be vocal because you're a quarterback, and that wasn't necessarily the case. I came in and watched, in my opinion, the best quarterback I've ever seen in Zach, barely talk, lead by example, and go rip it up and speak. And now when he speaks, it actually means something. And being able to kind of balance being cocky and arrogant, but also being humble. It's been a true blessing being there, man. It's as a whole, as a human being, as a player, that's why I'm so freaking juiced about the future, is because I'm man, I finally get to be me again, and it's been a really long time. I know Brady probably can attest to that. When you're in a good spot and you're allowed to be authentic to who you are, it's can't really beat that, man. Can't really beat that. So a lot of joy coming out of me, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice, Drew. And you mentioned when you got to Winnipeg, it rekindled your passion for football. And you also mentioned before that when you got to Oklahoma State, you didn't play to your back end, and maybe you were it seems like sometimes when you're done with college or something, it's easy to get beat down from the whole 4 or 5 years of playing college football. With the people we work with, baseball and football guys, we definitely see it where it's just man, do I keep going? Do I just keep going? I think to your credit, you did keep going, and the biggest thing was you just kept showing up. But with that said, can you kind of speak to how you were feeling at Oklahoma State? You don't have to get into any too many details or whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but because you kind of opened up, you mentioned emotionally you were seeing all these guys have success that you could have gone. So it's easy to be damn, why didn't I do this? Why did I do that? It's hard to think that way. But if you kind of dive into the time of Oklahoma State, and then you maybe touch on a little bit more of just how you have been rekindled now, if you will, in Winnipeg.
Yeah, dude. So, that decision was made pretty quickly. But I mean, it was that shit has treated me well my whole life. I went on a visit to my JUCO, walked out the door, came back in 20 seconds later, was like, I'm coming here. Same thing at Hawaii. Rolo was like, hey, man, we kind of need you to, like, let us know, like, pretty soon. I flew 5 hours back to California, called him, was like, I'm coming. Oklahoma State, same thing. It wasn't like, I know, like, teams, like, or coaches pressure guys, but I was more of, like, I was kind of raised, like, you might not always make the right decision, but you're going to make the decision right. And when you make that decision, you rip out the rearview mirror and you press on.
That's good.
And I think that's something that I might not be able to verbalize well, but it's like a testament to what I've done. The whole Oklahoma State situation was, I was recruited there. I was looking at schools like, hey, who needs a guy? Mason had just finished up 3 years playing really well in a really explosive offense. And I was like, okay, like I just ran a predominantly drop back, like type of style of offense at Hawaii. Let me see if I can kind of like provide some value for my future by doing a little bit more RPO stuff, doing a little bit more quarterback run stuff. So I go there, and on my recruiting trip, Taylor Cornelius was a starter that year, and dog.
Yeah.
And I'm on my recruiting trip, and I won't name any names, but I got shown tape of Taylor when he was a redshirt freshman, and I was like, this guy is dog shit. Like, this is me. Like, that was like a lot of like what went into my decisions everywhere I went. Was like, I want to compete, but like I also want to know, like, hey, like, as long as I do my thing, like, this is my shit to lose. And I go to spring ball to sit in meetings and stuff, because as a grad transfer, you don't sign, so you can legally do that. And I show up spring ball, and I'm watching practice, and I'm watching this 6'5" giant just ripping the ball around the field. And I'm like, yo, like, this is not what I saw on tape. And anyways, I was still like, I could flip my commitment whenever. I didn't sign a paper. But again, like, that's not who I am. So I didn't run from it. I show up, me and Taylor compete, even though he got 50% of the reps and I got 15. And then the young buck got the big recruit that they got, who was just there for, feels like 8 years now, but now he's at Ole Miss. Spencer showed up, and he got a ton of reps early on, even though, he didn't really know what was going on. But no love lost there. I graded out really well, ended up being the backup to Taylor. But I got to redshirt because you could play in 4 games, but still redshirt. That was the first year of that rule. So that goes on. I think something that's pretty honorable about Gundy is that you can say what you want about him, but he's really loyal to who he chooses. And despite Taylor's ups and downs, I mean, you can't really argue. Like, the guy had a hell of a season. He's like one of 3 guys in Oklahoma State history to account for, I want to say, over 40 touchdowns. Like, that's a shitload of touchdowns, man. That's a lot of production.
Yeah.
And anyway, I mean, fast forward, me and him are like best friends now. We just got back from Vegas for my bachelor trip and got after it a bit.
Good for you.
Yeah. So me and Taylor are super tight now. We're both in the CFL, obviously. And then the following year, we got a new offensive coordinator. Came from Princeton.
Yep.
Sean Gleason, great guy. Interesting guy, but like I felt like we were both a little weird, a little psychotic. And I think that kind of works well. Sometimes you do this, but that's all right. Friction's good sometimes. And but he was predominantly like quarterback run stuff. That's where he kind of made his bread, like, so to speak, right? He like was doing 2 quarterback stuff like long before it was like cool. And he shows up, and I'm like, okay. Like, I'm competing against a kid who probably runs a 4.4, 4.5. The kid is a hooper. Like, super athletic. I never take that away from Spence.
Yeah.
Can rip the shit out of the ball. Couldn't play the position like I could. Didn't know how to play the position, and that's not his fault. He just needed to learn. And I think as you saw his career progress, like he's starting to figure it out. And now he's, with one of the best offensive minds in the game. I felt like he might have been a little bit handcuffed at OSU just based on system and based on scheme. Because you don't know what you don't know, right? I was just so blessed being in offense. Like my first system was the run and shoot pretty much. And like that just like blew my mind. And that was the first thing, like I still like am like, man, like if I could run that shit again, which is basically like what we do in CFL. It's like there's so much on the table. So it allowed me to understand spacing really well, how to like see coverage really well. Anyway, that was kind of a tangent there, but my second year at Oklahoma State was competing with Spence. They were like, hey, these are the numbers you need to hit in practice. We're going to go off completion percentage and turnovers. I think I was like 75% non-adjusted, so that's including drops and all that. And I think I had like 4 turnovers in spring ball and fall camp combined. Not saying that that's the way you should do it, but that's what I was asked to do. So I kind of changed my game to be a little bit more conservative, give them what they want, because I wanted to play, man, And I don't remember what his were, but mine that's pretty damn good for practice. And I got called in a few days before our Oregon State game, the opener, and I was told that he fits the scheme better with where our strengths were. I was told maybe if I was there, 8 years ago when we were true air raid, then it might be a different discussion. But I couldn't argue. Like, yeah, the kid can run. He's a ball carrier. Like, I can run a little bit, but I don't run to fucking run. I run to pass, And so then they were like, yeah, he's going to start. You're going to play. He started. I ended up not playing. And, they put me in, like, the last 2 snaps of the game, which really pissed me off. And that year was tough, man. That was, like, I felt like that was my team. I felt like I won the guys over. I've always been a guy that kind of took pride in winning the guys over. Not by, like, shouting and I'm not a let's go guy, but, like, you see me work and guys respect it. And I felt like that was all coming to fruition. And then I just kind of stuck it out, man. I wasn't happy. I wasn't like, oh, yeah, I love this. But, like, like I was at practice. I was pissed off, but I was going to keep my ass off. My favorite drill of the week was 2-minute because I'd always let the coaches know who's going to win a game for him with some explicit language. So I mean, what did I have to lose? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, fast forward, he gets hurt, and then I played the back half, like the last 4 or 5. Good numbers. Didn't get the wins that I wanted to.
I did see. I forget who it was against, but you were Big 12 newcomer of the week. You had really good numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that, like, I had good numbers, but, like, I felt like the cohesiveness between me and the coordinator, because the system was a lot different when I was in.
Fair.
Like, right? You ever get double slants called on both sides? Like, you just run away, run far and away. Right?
Yeah, that's some
like,
Madden stuff.
Yeah, like, let me figure it out. Like, I played college football for 5 years. I could figure it out. And that was kind of the hand I was dealt. But we could go down the what ifs forever, but wouldn't change it for the world, man. Yeah. Like 3 of the guys that I got close with at Oklahoma State, they're going to be in my line at my wedding. And despite, like, it not going well, watching Gardner, watching Joe do their thing, I just kind of was like, I got, like, my own plan. I had to focus on me. I couldn't get caught up in looking at someone else's thing, because you don't know what they did. to get there. You know what I mean? Just like
Sure.
they don't know what it took for me to get there. So
that's good.
Wow. It's a pretty interesting story. But like my question is, so obviously you start at Hawaii for a while, and like as a grad transfer, you're going to look for somewhere to play. Right. And just like you said, that didn't work out how you wanted. But like, what were the biggest things you took away just by learning, just not having your way? It's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, what are the biggest takeaways you got from that?
I think that I learned that I loved the preparation. Because despite how angry I was, it was like watching tape and like me hunkering down was like, man, like no matter how pissed I was, like, man, I don't even fucking play. Like, why am I doing this? I was like in love with that part of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm realizing like, damn, like one, I think I'll be a good coach. And two, like, this is the part of the game that people, quote unquote, don't like. I'm like, dude, I love playing the game. Don't get me wrong. I love competing. I love throwing completions and getting hit in the mouth. Like, I love that shit. But, like, I can watch tape, especially if I have someone with me that, like, knows the game. Like, me and Zach watch tape. And it's, like, the best part of my week besides, you know, seeing my lady at the house. Like, it's, like, I enjoy that part of it so much. And I think that me realizing that was huge. And also just being able to, like, still do the things that I needed to do within the locker room. You know, like, it was my role to support Spencer and strike down any negativity towards his way, whether it was within the locker room, whether it was fans, whether it was whoever, whether it was my own family. You know what I mean? Hey, like, you played real bad, and I'm like, it don't matter. Like, I want to win, regardless if I'm out there or not. So just like kind of like learning a lot about yourself and like how you're wired, because it's hard, man. Like I've started for 2 years, and I was like, this is like I have one more year left. I ended up being 2 because I didn't use a red shirt. My mindset was like, I'm going to be somewhere for 6 months. I'm going to throw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, and I'm probably going to get drafted in the 4th round because I'm tiny. But I will get drafted.
Yeah.
That was my thought process. It was a business decision. You know what I mean? I could have stayed at Hawaii, thrown for a shitload of yards, and I still felt like I'd be in the same spot. You know? So that's what it came down to. And early on, it was hard to kind of watch other guys have success, but I mean, that didn't last long. You know, it's like you kind of have that perspective of like, you got your own shit to deal with. Like, don't worry about anyone else's gig. You know, and I kind of always like believed that it would, even though I was kind of preparing for a different avenue of football, I was always preparing for the situation I'm in now. You know, like it's like, oh, like I stopped caring about getting better. Like now, like I'm pretty solid about like being where my feet are and doing what I need to do to stay ready. So
no, that's spot on. You mentioned you did your combine training. Was it in Atlanta? Is that where Quincy Avery is? Okay, with Quincy Avery, who, for those that don't know, one of the best quarterback trainers out there, trains a lot of NFL guys and combine guys, and you know, you said Jalen Hurts and who was the other quarterback? Ben DiNucci? Ben how was that? Was that just a fun environment just with those guys, learning a ton, I'm sure, from Quincy and growing and stuff? Yeah,
dude, it was awesome. Like being able to kind of like obviously get to know these guys that like I played against Jalen. You know what I mean? I hated Jalen for 7 days. You know, I loved Jalen, and then I hated him for 7 days. You know, after playing him in college and stuff, and was always like super inspired by his story and being able to talk to him and like have some seriously like crazy relatable moments in our career. Being replaced by someone younger, someone with more upside, you know, and I was shocked that like, because obviously you only hear what the media says, and everyone's like, Jalen's a runner. Jalen's a freaking runner. And I watched him go on the board and give a more detailed, description or install of spin concept. You know what I mean? Like your 2 has a grab and then you got a speed cut dig or whatever. And he talked about that concept for 45 minutes and the details of it. And I was like, this fucking guy's, if he just gets somewhere and they believe in him, he's going to be damn good. Not to mention he's got like this, like screw loose. Like he is, you can tell when you talk to him, like this guy's got family, has a few friends, but like this is what he does. And same thing with Ben, like seeing how Ben operated and how loose Ben was, but how professional Ben was super cool. And we all got along super well. And it was fun just competing and being like, damn, like I'm putting the ball just like these fools, you know what I mean? And I think Quincy kind of tickled my brain a little bit because this was kind of like mechanical. Like I was kind of taught to like I was kind of coming out when like Tom House was like coming out with like the big like hip shoulder separation stuff. And I struggled a lot with it, man, but that's how I threw, like, because I felt like that was how you're supposed to throw. Maybe I didn't have the guidance I was supposed to have. But Quincy was like, dude, like, don't. He was like complete polar opposite of that, you know. And I think there's a happy medium to both. But he like sat me down. And he's like, dude, you're a natural thrower. Stop trying to actively rotate. You're gonna rotate. And his cue for me was like, resist rotation. And I just started resisting it. And he was explaining to me about it's about when the force is applied. It's not how much. And it completely changed. It tickled me, bro. Like I'm telling you. And like I went down this rabbit hole for the last 3 years and I've been throwing the ball better than I've ever thrown. And
Yo, that's real quick. That is awesome because I think everyone gets married to like you have to throw like a one way approach. But that right there, I think one shows how good he is, but two, like your willingness to buy in and get better. But like if you look at a pitcher, what makes pitcher X really good is probably not what makes pitcher A really good. And so if you try to make A mimic X, A is not going to be very good. But if you let A be A, he's probably going to shove the you know what out of the ball. Same applies with a quarterback. If you try to make everyone Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, however they throw, like you can't just force someone into a box. If someone can already spin it, like let them spin it and get those qualities that help them be good, as opposed to trying to make one systematic quarterback. That kind of makes sense. It sounds like that's what you're kind of getting at.
Yeah, dude, it was like I've been lucky enough to I work now with, because Quincy's so far away from me, I work with a guy in Southern California. His name's Jose Mueller. He's with Left Coast Athletics. And we both connected with these guys in Tennessee, these baseball guys.
180?
Like 108.
108. That's it. Yeah, some of our guys use them. They got some awesome stuff.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me, like with all of it, and Jose does such a good job of like when I was kind of going through this process and journey, like mechanically, because I had never considered myself an elite thrower until now. Like I'm out of college, which I would have been pissed if I found this shit out and I wasn't playing. But just that, like having to like develop other sides of your game to be competent out there, just because of your lack of confidence in throwing. But just I think the best word I can use is like that they both have kind of like given me is like to find you, like give yourself contrast, like open up, close up, stride close, stride open, get into your backside, get into your front side, like different types of things to think about and to explore. So I can be like, okay, like for me, I'm not an open thrower. I'm not a left of the midline thrower. And everybody's like, you have to step left to the midline. I get it in theory, 100%. I understand it, and it makes sense. But like, then why do I throw the shit out of it when I'm closed? You know what I mean? Like I got a closed fucking front toe, man. I melt into the front side. My back foot almost like sweeps underneath my front foot, and it's like, well, you see it. I was actually watching Texas tape the other day, and now I can't unsee that. And I'm watching Ewers throw, and open, closed. Didn't matter. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that can just he's unreal. But every time I seen his back foot do that to the left, not to the right. You know what I mean? It would like fall to the right once it went left. And I think there's something there. And I'm not a biomechanist or whatever, but I'm an athlete and I go off the feel.
Yep.
And I can kind of generate that feeling of like not opening early, regardless whether I'm open or closed. Obviously easier when I'm close, but like working on that kind of like upper and lower working opposite of each other has kind of tickled me a little bit, and it kind of makes sense to me. Again, it's not a one size fits all, just like you're saying, like some people's hips are more internally rotated, more neutral, or more externally rotated. Same thing with like shoulder girdle, you know, it's like one guy might be more of like a 45 degree, one guy might be a little bit more straight up and down. But I think there's like no human being ever was made the same. So like, why are we making this a textbook? Like, give the guys some feel. Let them like yeah, it might take a little bit longer than your textbook, but like they're going to be fully convicted in what they're doing. Yeah. And I think that goes a lot with like kind of how I do my throwing nowadays is like I'll kind of do my like preparation for throwing. So like you're all like da 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 da. You know what I mean? It took me a while to buy into that shit. I'm not gonna lie. I used to just pick up the ball and rip it. So I'm like, hey, if I want to make 10, 15 years out of this, I got to probably start taking care of myself. I think that stuff's super important. But the first like after I do those things without a ball and some plyo stuff. When I actually start throwing, I'll kind of get my arm loose and I do this whole thing. It's basically like play. Just call it play. And it's basically if you went to recess at like elementary school and you saw guys throwing the ball around, that's me for like the first 15 minutes of me throwing. So I'm just exploring jump passes, throwing off my left, throwing off my right, throwing open, throwing close, pop passing close, pop passing open, sweeping my right by my left, running backwards, jumping, coming, like twisting my body, throwing it, like just trying a bunch of shit, trying to like problem solve with my body. Just like you would if someone's on a trampoline, you know what I mean? Like kind of like, how do my upper body limbs figure this out? What does my lower body do in the air? Like kind of just digging into like what that does. And I think it also like gives you good feedback, man, because like you'll fail and you get used to like learning from failure, because jumping off your left and throwing the ball is very hard to like sequence properly. But then you start to like figure out how to use your extremities and your limbs and how to like open and close back up. I think it's super useful. And then I get into like the traditional, like, throwing spot routes and shit like that. And then getting into more off platform stuff and then finish up with some static and some cool down.
No, I like that. That answered some stuff I want to get into, like what your pregame or not pregame, but your pre-throwing routine looked like. And Brady knows I could talk about this forever. Just where this being like the athletic performance field, and we work hand in hand with some pretty good quarterback skill coaches. Like we're more of the, the weight room and what we're doing in there that's going to help you be a better thrower. Where we work hand in hand with like the skill guy. Like, hey, quarterback X, Y, and Z doesn't do this well when he's throwing, and based off our assessment of what we're doing, we can maybe see like why that's the case. But I love what you mentioned about your pre-throwing routine just in general, because it seems like you have structure, but there's flexibility within that structure, right? Like I think that's a big key, because you have, not to get too much on like the strength conditioning side of things, but you have like you have like I'm kind of geeky, right? You got a bunch of geeks that are showing you all this stuff, but if you can't like make it make sense to the player, it really doesn't matter. Like the player has to have feel. So as like a strength coach or a trainer, you have to have feel as well with that player, right? You have to have like that same feel with them, where like they have to kind of get it and grasp it and feel it. That's why I think like having a structured, flexible approach is huge, because as long as you have like the main keys you want to hit, like how you get there and how the ways you go about it can really be, altering, or can be different, or can kind of fluctuate, if you will. And Bray knows this, and he's probably been exposed to, this type of stuff the past year, just, doing some training and throwing with our guys. But I think he's probably will tell you like it's probably made a difference in his too, just understanding things and then knowing, okay, like like for example with Brady, like, hey, if I have a long pathway to produce force, or if I have a good pathway, a clean pathway, I can produce more force within that pathway. You know what I mean? It's like small stuff like that, as opposed to like having like a short pathway, maybe a lot of force, but a short pathway. You know, it's almost like if an airplane is trying to stop, if I have a short runway, then like that stress is going to go on different tires and different parts of the airplane, right? Same thing when I'm throwing. If I have a long pathway and I'm strong from that pathway, then I can like throw like loosely and throw fluidly. You know, like I can't teach a quarterback how to throw, but we can do stuff, you know, within our setting that might facilitate them and throwing the ball a little bit better and kind of spinning a little bit.
For sure, and I think what you said about like feel like I think I hate that word, but I love that word, you know, because I also like do some quarterback stuff. Is like a young kid typically needs structure,
correct,
in development, and then, but for a guy like Brady or myself or guys that are, you know, have been on their journey a while and they have feel. I think feel is kind of like earned over time because like a kid doesn't know his ass from his hand. But I remember listening to like Kobe talk about how he warms up before games, and he was like, I don't do a structured, like I know structure in my head, but like, hey, if my Achilles is tight, I might address that a little bit more so than I typically would. In preparation for going out there and playing, you know, 35, 40 minutes. And even on that same interview when I was watching it, super cool. He talked about like because they play a shitload of games, man, but it can relate to football too, man. Like there's games where like you're on a bum leg. You just watched Mahomes in the playoffs, right? Like on a bum leg, so he had to win differently. You know, he still did certain things that he would do, but they didn't look the same. Like he won a different way, and Kobe like kind of went into like, hey, like this is gonna be like I'm gonna be in the post this game, or hey, like I'm gonna catch a lot of off-ball stuff because I feel great. I'm not even gonna fuck with being down there with those big bucks. You know what I mean? Like just kind of taking those little bits of like people that, especially him, man. I got so much respect for that guy because like he was so detailed in everything. And he just like kind of like would constantly like blow my mind with his thought process, let alone his talent and his skill, but like just his thought process is so like out of this world, and you can learn so much from someone like that. But yeah, kind of like long-winded there, but yeah, I'm with you, bro. Like just the flexible structure is necessary, especially with guys that are like talented, but they're like still kind of like itching for that like 0.01%. It's like a lot of times it comes from exploring. You know?
That's what it's all about. Okay, so before we get you out of here, Drew, we gotta talk like some CFL stuff, right? You gotta let us know like did your mind get blown when you went up there and you found out all these rules, right? But I also want to hear about like the Grey Cup. You started a game this year. I think was it week one, like you led the team to y'all's quarterback got hurt and you had to get in and y'all led to a game-winning drive. Like just tell us about that experience and go through some of those games and the game you started, the game-winning drive, and just like the rules and stuff in itself, like blow me and Brady's mind essentially, you know, like.
So I was pretty familiar with the CFL. As soon as I started talking to them, I started like watching like YouTube of like their highlights and like, okay, like trying to figure out the rules. But I also like knew about the CFL growing up because it used to be on TV. That's how old I am. So, you know, I remember being like 7, 8 years old and being like, damn, like the NFL doesn't work out. This shit looks really fun. But you go in, and I remember having so much anxiety about like sending the receivers. So you kind of like give them this. You're like, all right, fellas, I'm getting ready. And then you give them the hands, right? That's when they freaking take off. If you have any like change of strength motion, like they go on this, and then you send them, and you got like there's a part of your cadence that you've never really thought about. Usually you talk rhythm cadence for a lineman. You have to have rhythm cadence for everybody in the CFL. When I showed up, obviously like I give Zach and ROC a ton of credit because they kind of like took me under their wing and taught me different things, and a lot of just like me like. And how I am is just sitting back and observing and learning. Like I've kind of like learned well, not just with someone talking to me, but also like talking to someone else or going over scheme. And, the coolest things, like, we'll talk defense first. Like, Zach was really a good, really good mentor as far as like, hey, like, these are similar to the U.S., these are completely different. So, like, just start understanding the contrast between the two. Like, in this coverage, it's different than down in the States. If it's this coverage, it's the same. Like, man is man, but, like, different types of zone coverages ask different things of, CFL structure with the extra guy and stuff. So, like, I'm always, like, talking to Zach, and I'm like, dude, I kind of miss playing American football because I watch, even on the TV copy, I'm like, I know exactly what they're in every fucking snap. Like, this shit is, like, no sweat off my forehead, whatever the saying is. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, I see kids go in the wrong place with the ball, and I'm just like, dude, they're lining up in it. Like, what are we doing? In the CFL, like, you change, they change. So it's all post-snap. So I would guess, like, around 15 times in my college career, I had to react to, like, typically third and long, I had to react to, like, some sort of post-snap rotation. 15 out of, I don't know how many pass attempts, but a shitload. And getting used to seeing that post-snap and, like, making decisions based on that, like, that takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. That goes, again, with learning the system and stuff. And then you get into what you can do on offense. So, like, the way you can recapture leverage with the motions is fascinating. The way you can manipulate zone coverage based on splits and motioning is fascinating. Something I'd never heard before I got to CFL was how important people talk about spacing all the time. Spacing is 100% important. But then they started diving into, like, exactly, like, no, like, this guy needs to show up first. He needs to get his eyes, and then you show up. So there's, like, a stagger in the motion. Like, it's not like everybody hits it, like, boom, like we're running a track race. It's like, hey, on this play, like, this guy needs to trail. So make it look like you're running, but trail him by 2-3 yards because we need that guy to do his job first, and then so on and so forth. And that was kind of like kind of hard to explain, but so critical, in zone coverage and being able to hit different areas of the field. Now everybody's like, well, like, is the biggest difference the field size? It's not really. Like, if you're playing up there, they wouldn't just bring someone up there if you can't, like, throw a field hitch or a field out. It's not. That's not the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle is probably just understanding the game and being able to, like, the way I think of it is, like, my last year in college, I was like an extension of the coach. My first year in the CFL, I felt like I was a freshman in high school, just learning how to read coverage and shit. Like, it was, like, very, like, okay. Like, I think that's why a lot of guys don't want to go up there, because it's like, shit, I might get embarrassed by, like, how complex it is, because it's completely different. Yeah, there's some similarities, but, like, even, like, your thought process in the game, like, you have 3 downs, bro. You get 2 downs, you get a first, you're punting on third most of the time. So, like, production on first down. You know what I mean? You get 1 yard on first down, now you're in 2nd and 9. That's like a 3rd and long that's another 3rd and long back down south. So being, like, really productive on first down is huge. Finding the balance of, like, taking shots, because you don't have that 2nd in 2 to 4 where you're like, your coach is like, hey, 2nd 2 to 4, we're down at play action, big post, whatever it is, It's like, now, like, 2nd and 2 to 3, like we're running it, or we're fucking getting out on the edge and getting a first, because we don't have that shot down. So sometimes your shot down's 1st and 10 because you know what coverage they're going to be in. 2nd down, they get a lot more creative, so you got to call your stuff. You got to be really good in the meeting room about talking to your guys and, like, how to stagger what your split is, and making sure they get their depth and all these different things. And, hey, this is how we want it run versus man. This is how we want it run versus zone. This is how it changes versus these different types of zones. You're not, like, going into a game and being like, all right, they're a quarters team. They're going to play quarters. They're going to bring some zero, and they're going to play man. It's like, yeah, they play quarters like 25% of the time, and then they play three double cloud 20% of the time, and then they play, cloud, but then like rotate down to the boundary. Like it's like everything. You know what I mean? You can't like really truly dial it up until you like have a good understanding of what they're doing on certain down and distances. I think my first year helped me a ton in having, the little bit of success that I've had so far this early on, because I, again, just kind of like stuck to the script and prepared, even though like I was on PR for most of the year my first year. It's like, I know I'm not going to play, but I'm still like, I'm figuring out what my process is. Your process changes as you get older. Brady, what you were doing as a freshman is completely different than what you're doing now, because you've either sought out information or you saw someone ahead of you do something different. And you're like, I'm going to give that a shot. Oh, that works. Or, I'm going to give that a shot. I don't really like it. Mm-hmm. Finding your own process in the preparation, I think, is critical in guys' success. Some guys are big on numbers. You know what I mean? Some guys are not. Like some guys are percentage guys. Some guys aren't. Some guys, when they first watch tape, they watch formations. Some people watch games. It's like, you got to like troubleshoot your process. You know what I mean? And that whole process is just you trying to prepare, and preparation breeds confidence. So in my second year, this past year, the first week, Zach gets called out. The concussion spotter pulls him out. It's like, I don't even remember. It was like a little over a minute to go, I think. We had to go like 70 or 80 yards. I don't remember. But first snap, we jumped off sides because my cadence is slightly different. So that was a good start. I actually hated the play he called too. So I was like, okay, this is good. Yeah, he called like a double move. I was like, dude, come on. Give me a fucking layup. Like, naked or something. Then the next play, he calls a play that I love. Like, near and dear to my heart. Perfect. Rip it. We get like 18. Next play, we go tempo. They bring zero. First off, Brady, you're going to go play in the NFL, but if you ever do play in the CFL, everyone zeros the young quarterback thinking they don't see it. It's like, dude, it's the easiest fucking coverage to see. I throw hot. He catches it, goes 15. Go tempo again. They go zero again. Throw hot. He gets like 30. And then we bleed it down and we kick a field goal to win.
That's awesome.
I remember like being like kind of like before that moment, I just like have kind of developed this, like, I just don't care what anyone thinks except for my teammates. So like the only type of pressure I had on myself was like, I want to pull through for these guys. And like, I just don't, I've had DMs, mail, like the worst you can get, death threats, like I've had it all. So like, as soon as you remove yourself from being afraid of like letting the fans down or whoever is watching on TV, the better off you're going to be. If you just don't give a shit, like, who really matters to you? You know what I mean? Like, when I like really sat down and thought about that, I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck about any of these people. Like, you know what I mean? Right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't. I care about my teammates. I care about my coaches that believe in me. So it kind of like naturally breeds this, like, I'm going to be good, you know? Like, just like, that's where you get guys that look like calm as a cucumber. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's the moment's not too big because they're not thinking about the millions of people that are going to fucking tarnish their name if they fail. And I think that was kind of the same mentality I took into, we had the playoffs clinched, but the team we were playing was still playing for home field advantage. So they had all their starters. We had a few of our starters, but our whole offensive line was kind of like mix and matched. So great opportunity. I didn't look at it like, oh, we're undermanned. I was like, dude, I'm going to pull this shit off, like, regardless. And it was a lot of fun, man. I dealt with some serious adversity in most people's eyes. I was playing good, threw a pick six. I'm like, shit, all right, here we go. Come back, playing really well. started getting in rhythm, started running around, making some plays, started, playing within the system. We're driving down to either tie it up or take the lead. They go 0. We called quarterback draw. I miss a quick out, throw a pick 6.
Oh.
Can you believe that? So now we're down 2 scores. Get the ball back, drive the length of the field, score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion. So now it's a 1-score game. We got like 20 seconds left. Like, all right. We're like, I don't even know. We're like on our own 30. It's a long fucking way to go. But I'm like, hey, why not? Let's do it. In the CFL, we have interesting rules in 2 minutes. Like every time, like there's a completion regardless of first down, like the clock stops. So like it still gives you a lot of things can happen in the last 3 minutes of games. First play, we throw like a 20-yard dig, and the DB just makes a hell of a play, knocks it down. So then we had to like do the old lateral kind of shit. Didn't work. End up losing by 1 score. A lot of good lessons, man. Like a lot of good lessons. I missed 2 out routes. One was at 12. One was at 5. I was open. And I didn't counter. So you can imagine that I've been fucking working a shitload of that. But ended the game with like, I want to say like over 300, 3 touchdowns, had the 2 picks, but really cool learning experience. I think I wasn't really surprised, but I think what maybe a lot of guys like to see within the organization was like, the guy made 2 of the biggest mistakes you could possibly make. Not only did you turn the ball over, but you spotted them 14 points. And you come back. Just keep fucking throwing punches, man. And I think that me at maybe 19 wouldn't have done that. And I think that's the coolest realization you can make is like, I've thrown 2 pick 6s in the game. I was at Hawaii. We played San Diego State, and I didn't respond. I folded. And just seeing like your growth as a human, like it's kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard to come back from that. But you're able to be put in a similar situation, and you look at how you respond now as a man, and it's like, that's really gratifying to see that, not only have I gotten better, obviously physically, but like emotionally, spiritually, in every facet of what makes you holistically, like you're improving. And I think as humans, just us chasing growth is the number one way that you're going to continue to like quote unquote succeed, in what you want to do. I think when you stop wanting to find truth in yourself, like reflecting on like what you need to improve on as a person, whether it's football or life, I think that's where, a lot of the bad things happen in the world. And I think just like having that mindset, wishing I could probably articulate it better. But I think, you two, talking to you guys, I think you guys feel me, you know what I mean? Because you guys are both in that pursuit of perfection, even though it's not attainable. But just getting up and understanding like it's another day to chop some freaking wood. You know what I mean? And try and find truth and try to chase growth. I think that's huge, man.
Yeah, Drew, we always at the end, we always give our guests like a, just real quick 30-second of advice to like younger quarterbacks. And I feel like this whole podcast has been advice to younger quarterbacks. So I've taken some good stuff. Ray's taken some good stuff. Like the biggest thing that stands out, you just said it, like you just found a way just to keep punching, wake up, keep chomping woods. Like what I said at the beginning of the video, like my biggest takeaway before we jumped on was like, man, he just keeps showing up. He just kept showing up. If you keep showing up, that's half the battle. And so, for whatever it's worth from us to you, you got fans down in Texas and App State now, but like just keep showing up. Just keep doing what you've been doing, and who knows what's going to happen down the road. None of us do, but like for whatever it's worth, man, just keep showing up, keep throwing punches, and as long as they're still in the ring, that there's still a fight to be fought. So, but with that said, I do want to give you just like a quick 30 seconds of like wrap up some advice to just younger quarterbacks who are maybe that high school to early college range? Just what's some quick advice that you would give to them as they're kind of making that transition?
I would say don't waste your time looking at other guys as far as like their situation, because one, it doesn't pertain to you, and two, you don't know about anything that it took for them to get there. Just like they have no idea what it took for you to get there. So the more you can just chase your own development, and I know that it sounds like selfish, but no, it's like you need to sit back and like figure out how to do this thing because it's your life. I think as soon as I took my eyes, I remember in high school, like looking around, seeing guys get offered, and I'm like, man, like I'm better than that guy. And I was just like looking at them. It was a great source of motivation, but I mean, you look around and you're 25 and you're like, what are these guys doing now? Where's my motivation? It has to be you. You have to chase your own growth, your own path, your own journey. And I think that finding that at a young age would go a long way. Is like get around good people that know what they're doing and chase your own development. You know, for whatever that means to them. You know, I think that's what I kind of wish that maybe I probably got that advice and maybe I wasn't ready for it. You know, but as soon as I took my eyes off of others and started like looking at my journey and what I need to do to develop, you realize how much time was wasted worrying about other people. And another little side note was don't think it's going to happen without work. Not all work is good work, but like, again, find the right people that can guide you, and then put the fucking work in, man.
Let's go.
Because you go up against someone that has done that, it's either going to be a slugfest back and forth, or you don't even have a fucking chance. You know, and I think for Brady, you know, like I don't know too much about your story, but like it seems like, you know, you've been through a lot of stuff, man, and it's like when you take the field, it should be like, man, like all these things that have kind of like you've gone through, like, and you're in competition and you're like starting to like feel out your competitor or whoever you're going against. Like these guys haven't been through this. They haven't been through what I've been through. These guys don't deserve to be on the field with me. Like, even if that's not true, you know what I mean? Like having that mindset, bro, has like completely elevated the way that I compete. And I think, you know, like as a guy in college, like having that opportunity to like really stamp what you do. Because I mean, the talent is like, obviously you're where you are for a reason, man. And it's like, who knows? Maybe it's just like you getting a little bit more fucking arrogant, a little more pissy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Way, bro. Like I'm excited. I don't even know you, bro, but I'm fired up for you. You know what I mean?
No, just hearing you inspired me, and just you could see how self-aware you are, just more than football, like just in life. As you said, like holistically, like it was good to hear that, and just doing these kind of things really motivate me throughout, because it's year 6, man. Like, you know how that grad transfer, third school, like it can get redundant. Like just hearing these kind of stories, like really motivate me and kind of remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing still. So I appreciate hearing that from you, man.
It can be done regardless of how this year goes. It can fucking be done. You know what I mean? And that's the light at the end of the tunnel that you're after. You know what I mean? And like Steven was saying, man, you just keep going. Like I'm thinking about life and I'm just like, man, like just kind of want to keep going. Trying, and you keep like putting work in, and like there's some good days and there's some bad days, but like the only day that you lose is when you stop. You just keep fucking going, man. I'm excited for you.
Appreciate that, bro.
Man, well, Drew, thanks you were so gracious with your time and truly inspiring stuff. And thank you for being raw and open and sharing the emotions. Seriously,
for the 4-letter words.
No,
that's just me.
That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to create here. Just a big quarterback hub, like just like we all got done with a throwing session. Y'all throwing further and harder than I am, but I'm still there, and we're all just like chopping it up, you know, just like hanging out. That's just what we want this to be, just a big quarterback hub, or like, this is the toughest position in sports, and it's lonely.
It's a lonely journey, bro.
So
you got that right.
Yeah, we just wanted to make it just a place. So, man, we appreciate you coming on again. For anyone that watched, man, like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff, and we'll